Hello, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Sports Talk on Elm Street. Got Joe Elms, Cornurchers is over there, per usual. The boys, the fellas, the dudes, the muchachos are back. I wanted to use muchacho. That's why I said it.
Yes.
I wanted to use it because I thought it was funny. So that's why I said that. Let's get the armrest on my chair down here, and you will notice. Okay, something I want to point out. You will notice that. Surprise, surprise, Joe is not wearing the HN polo or the jeans.
A change of attire here.
I don't have a change of attire. And kind of what went down on that is, so we have our shameless plug, right? We have our sports photography class.
Shameless plug.
Which runs from 1:15 to 2:30. It's currently 2:27 p.m. right now, Eastern time.
We skipped class. Just kidding.
Yeah, no, we didn't do that. We were let out a little bit early by our professor, James Brosher. Shout out. I did that last spring for
a full lore drop.
Yeah,
right
the
now.
full lore drop. I did that last spring for Jake and Kate in our sports studio show class, and now I'm doing it here. Anywho, we got out of class early, about 2:10-ish. So and Mr. Richards booked this for 2:30. So and our class normally goes until 2:30. So I'm thinking to myself, oh, well, I don't have time to change clothes. I don't have time to change clothes before we have to go in here and do our thing. So I just didn't bring a change of clothes. And to make a long story short, now I'm in this, and I'm rocking the Hartford Whalers.
Yeah, Joe, known Connecticut native, big
I'm from there.
Hartford, Connecticut fan.
I'm from there.
Always were, always was, always have been,
and always will be.
Connecticut guy.
That's such a lie. I'm not from there. I'm from Dallas. Shout out Dallas, all my Dallas people. You guys know I'm not from Connecticut. I don't go to Cape Cod every summer. I'm not like the guys from my favorite band, Vampire Weekend. I don't go to Cape Cod most summers. Anyway, but
everyone's getting such an inside look and intimate
into
look
my
at
life,
your life,
into
right
what I
now.
into my interests, into your
class schedule.
Yeah, my class schedule. Some of the things I like outside of sports. Oh, sports. That's right. That's what we talk about here, isn't it?
Oh, that's what it's about.
Yeah, that's what we do. It's not music on Elm Street. It's not class schedules on Elm Street. It's sports talk on Elm Street, people. And today we're going to talk some sports like we always do and we always will do. And what better place to start than to maybe recap, Quinn, an absolutely insane Week 6 of college football, because that seems like still, I know we're a few days removed from it, but it still seems like that's all anyone could talk about right now.
It really was an insane week. I mean, we start out with what was, as Lane Kiffin described as, a once-in-a-lifetime thing, which was Vanderbilt. And yeah, you heard that right. Vanderbilt taking down the number one team in the country, Alabama. And Vanderbilt, a known football powerhouse. That's sarcasm.
Yes, known football powerhouse, Vanderbilt. The Commodores. Right?
Yeah, they are like the only rival for... It's a crazy year because they're the only rival for what I was going to say a historically bad Indiana program in terms of worst Power 5 teams. But also, look at Indiana, 6-0 first bowl eligible team.
And we will get to the Hoosiers in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, you had Alabama going down, and then I believe it was number 9, Missouri, blown out by Texas A&M.
Yeah, how about that, man? I mean, I guess, you know
insane.
what? I'd say for Missouri, that's almost like karma for their subpar games against some pretty bad teams. I mean, I think, correct me if I'm mistaken here, but Missouri played the same Vanderbilt team, right?
Yeah, and it was close.
And it was
went double
game.
overtime, I think.
Yeah.
So that was an insane game. Now, I didn't have tons of faith in that Missouri team. You have Tennessee coming out flat against Arkansas. They lose at Arkansas by 5.
After having a chance to possibly win that game at the very end, ultimately the Volunteers came up short and lost to the Razorbacks in Fayetteville.
Yeah. And then you had a pair of Big Ten teams, Michigan and USC, both 10 and 11 respectively, both losing away. Michigan at Washington, which is a tough place to play, granted, and then USC at Minnesota, which was a pretty crazy game. And then you almost had number 8 Miami fall at the hands of Cal. They had a 28 or 20, no, it was like a 20, it was a 20-something point deficit they overcame late in that one.
When I checked the score around, I think I was getting ready to go to bed or something. I checked the score. I'm like, oh, Miami and Cal are on the super, super, super late slate. Hashtag ACC.
Yeah.
After dark. ACC after dark. And I checked the score, and the Golden Bears of Cal were up 21-10, and I'm like, oh, well, that could possibly be interesting. And then I wake up the next morning, and I'm like, oh, Miami won 39-38. So I'm like, oh, what? How did we get from point A to point B?
That was a very insane game. So if you went to sleep or you decided to skip your Saturday football experience because you saw the schedule and you saw that there's only one ranked versus ranked matchup, I have bad news for you. You missed number 1, number 4, number 9, 10, 11, all fall last Saturday.
I mean, can you get any crazier, any more insane than
nuts.
what we witnessed in Week 6?
Yeah.
And let's go back to the number 1 Alabama, or should I say, the formerly number 1 ranked Alabama Crimson Tide, losing to known college football powerhouse Vanderbilt. Granted, this game for Alabama was on the road. That environment was, as the Crimson Tide learned rather quickly, a very, very difficult place to play. There's no doubt about that. Let's get that out of the way right now. Very tough place to play if you're Bama. But the first thing, I'm taking a look at this game, and I watched the end of this game. I'm looking at this game, something that kind of just stuck out to me. I don't know if you'll agree with me on this. It seemed like Vanderbilt just wanted this game more. They wanted to win this game more than Alabama did. Alabama seemed like they were just kind of going through the motions at times. I mean, it's almost like I don't know if I want to say they looked past Vanderbilt, but I feel like that there were times in this game where it seemed like that was the case. And I mean, quarterback Jalen Milroe, he's the first guy my eyes go to, and I mean, that's natural. He threw for over 300 yards, threw a touchdown, also threw an interception, and had a massive fumble with I believe it was about 5.5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. That ended up proving extremely costly, as that was one of the main reasons the Tide ended up losing the game. And I mean, for Vanderbilt on the other side, right? Quarterback Diego Pavia, he played really, really darn good. 16 for 20, 252 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he did not turn the ball over.
No, he did not.
He took really good care of the ball, was efficient, and he put up some pretty nice stats, all things considered. And he was definitely one of the main reasons why the Commodores won this game. Quinn, thoughts?
Yeah, you talk about Alabama looking past Vanderbilt and kind of...
Was that, do you think?
Coming out...
that's the case a little bit?
Well, I thought it was mainly the first half. Alabama came out flat, right?
Yeah,
and it was
definitely
almost
flat.
You're coming off of an insane Georgia game where you take down Georgia.
You wonder about that emotional high,
Yeah, and honestly, the way Alabama played in the second half of that game reminded me of the way they played in the first half of Vanderbilt. And yes, it's a very different opponent, right? You're
quality
home
of
against
opponent. Yeah.
Georgia versus away at a Vanderbilt team who's not that good. I mean, Vanderbilt's better than they have been in the past, granted.
But they're still not exactly. I mean, it's kind of like we said. We were kind of half joking, but it's also partially true. They're not a particularly good team. No offense, Commodore fans.
And I mean, Nick
Sorry.
Saban had said on game day that day, he said the only place I would ever feel comfortable about going there and like you could comfortably win in the SEC at an away game was Vanderbilt.
He said that on that day?
I think it was that day.
The day that they were...
I think it was that day on game day.
That's...
And then they went on to obviously beat Alabama. But yeah, what it came down to was that Vanderbilt came out ready to play. They weren't underestimating. Obviously, if you're Vanderbilt, this is your like biggest game, right?
Exactly.
You circle this on your calendar.
No doubt at all.
It is a chance to prove yourself on the national stage. They go out, they take a 23-14 lead at halftime. Alabama played better in the second half, if I'm being honest. But Vanderbilt played just enough to take home the win. And if you're Alabama, you can't get away with playing one half of football. They got away with it last week. They didn't get away with it this week. You have to play the full 4 quarters. Vanderbilt did. Alabama did not. So even though Alabama was the better team, I think, has more talent, should have won this game, Vanderbilt did just enough in the second half to walk away with the win, and full credit to them. They deserved it.
Yeah,
they deserved it the way they played.
That win with the way they played. And maybe more, even further, the way Alabama didn't play.
Yeah. And I mean, in terms of stuff that actually stands out, like Alabama did an okay job defensively. I mean, you let up 40 points, which is can't do.
Monster amount.
Can't do, but ultimately Vanderbilt was just more efficient. 16 for 20 through the air. Now on the ground, they had a ton of carries, 54 for the team, only averaging 3.1 yards per carry, which is, if you're a defense, you don't mind that. 3.1 yards per carry isn't a dashing issue. It's not the worst thing in the world.
It's not a glaring issue in
But
really any way.
Yeah, you have the fumble, you have the interception, you lose the turnover battle. You can't go out there and expect to win the game by only playing the second half, and ultimately Alabama didn't.
I mean, you can't just play half an hour of football and expect to come away with a win, regardless of what level you're playing at.
And at the end of the day, there's goalposts floating in the river. So
and
end result of that game.
That's the reason why there are goalposts just chilling in the river right now. But keep on going, embracing more and more of the chaos. How about Missouri and Texas A&M? You want to talk about that for a second? I mean, I watched a good chunk of this game. This game was wild, and not in the traditional kind of wild. It wasn't a barn burner. Well, it was for one team. It wasn't a barn burner in the traditional sense. Missouri. Let me put it this way: Missouri didn't just lose to A&M; they got their proverbial butts whooped. This was not even really. This was, I'm not really sure what to say. I mean, this was the A&M rushing attack was on point throughout this game. I mean, Le'Veon Moss, 12 carries, 138 yards, 3 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns, guys. That's insane. And it just seemed like nothing went wrong for the Aggies. And on the flip side, it seemed like everything went wrong for Missouri. You ever heard of Murphy's Law?
Yeah.
You know what that is?
Mm-hmm.
Everything that for those who don't know, Murphy's Law states basically that whatever can go wrong will go wrong. And that's not that far off from what happened to Missouri in this game, I don't think. I mean, were there some weird breaks with penalties?
There were.
Like, for example, in the first quarter, right, a pass interference flag that I believe got picked up, and not called against the Tigers anymore. First down A&M. Yes, that was a bad break.
And then a legal man downfield, I believe, on
that
a Luther Burden
touchdown.
Yeah,
from Brady Cook to Luther Burden the third, an illegal formation penalty wiped that out. Were there some bad breaks? Yes. Did Missouri play terribly? Also, yes.
Yeah.
Was A&M amazing? Also, yes. I mean, I just don't know if there's much more to say on this one. I mean, Missouri got throttled.
Yeah,
this was terrible, and I feel like this is. I feel like maybe I maybe mentioned this earlier. I don't remember because it's already out of my brain by now. I think this loss was karma for Missouri for all the subpar wins they've had against middle of the pack 2 bad teams. And you remember on the first episode when Riley Woodall came on, I said that the Missouri Tigers were going to be one of the 4 last remaining teams in the college football playoff. Well, that is aging like some milk.
Mm-hmm.
That's gross. I am completely out on this team
right
now.
I didn't have faith in this Missouri team from the start.
Yeah. What went into that? Because I was enamored with this offense and the possibilities. What I thought they could achieve. What went into that for you? I'm just curious.
Well, I watched the Sugar Bowl last year, and yes, Missouri beat Ohio State in that game. Ohio State had Devin Brown at quarterback, but that Missouri offense with
shout out Devin Brown.
How much it was talked about and how much discussion went around how good it was when it faced a quality defense like Ohio State. Nothing.
They put up 7 points, right? Is that right? Maybe 14.
I think there was a late touchdown in that one. 2023 Sugar Bowl. It was a
rock fight. It was a rock
fun
fight.
game.
Yeah.
The Cotton Bowl. Excuse me.
Cotton Bowl.
The Sugar Bowl was I think in the playoffs that year. 14-3.
14-3.
And all 14 points came in the fourth quarter, which were late.
So it was a rock fight.
Yeah, it was just this Missouri team, when it faced a good defense, was stout and it was unable to do anything.
Yeah.
Right? Just
ineffective.
Against Texas A&M, not only was the offense horrible, but the defense was just as bad. And a big part of that was Connor Wegman stepping in for Texas A&M. He's been in and out of injuries for the past 2 years.
Yeah.
Finally gets back in the rotation.
When he's been on the field, I think he's been okay. But he
was great.
He was really good.
He was
really good.
Great.
Really good in this one.
Leading this offense, every single throw he made looked easy, looked right in cadence, like he was on target, on rhythm, and it looked like Missouri had no idea how to stop him. He went 18 for 22, 276 yards. Had 5 rushes for 33 yards as well.
And I thought when on the semi-rare occasion where the plays did break down, I thought he particularly did a good job of being able to find and create something out of seemingly nothing.
Yeah.
So I thought he did a good job improvising in this game as well.
And then just talk about the run game. Le'Veon Moss, 12 carries, 138 yards. You mentioned those 3 touchdowns. He broke off a big 75-yard touchdown that game. Yeah, look, I genuinely think that time and time again, and I had made a tweet about it. I said that the SEC teams are consistently overrated to start the season.
I'm starting to see what you're talking about.
I said we have to stop pretending the SEC is the best conference because they beat up on each other. LSU I thought was overrated. Ole Miss I thought was overrated, and they lost an early game to South Carolina, right? Or not South Carolina. It was the week before.
They lost to USC.
No, Ole Miss.
Right?
LSU lost to USC. Ole Miss.
No,
lost.
LSU. You're talking. Yeah, you're. Yeah, that's stupid. Yeah, but
Ole Miss coming off of a loss to Kentucky. And then I said Missouri was also overrated. The SEC is just as top heavy as the Big Ten, which I genuinely believe. Yet its teams reap the benefits of preseason AP poll bias.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And look, you can say that it's because of recruiting that the SEC gets ranked, but you have to at some point look at the actual talent on the field and understand that a team like Missouri, who was in a dogfight with Vanderbilt, is genuinely not a top 10 team, shouldn't have been a top 10 team.
Yeah, no way.
And as a result, they got crushed by Texas A&M.
Yeah. Okay, so that I think this begs the question, what are your feelings on Texas A&M at this point in time? Do they have a legitimate shot to kind of run themselves up the SEC rankings, or was this just kind of one of those, this is a great win, but they're not seriously a threat in the conference?
Yeah, they have a shot. They have a pretty good shot, I think. I think they control their own destiny 100%. You look ahead at the schedule. You have Mississippi State. You're coming off, they have a bye week this weekend. And then you have Mississippi State, which should be a pretty smooth win. Mississippi State's not a great team in the SEC.
They're okay. They're not that good.
Then you have home against LSU, which is huge that game is home.
That's a huge game.
And then you have at South Carolina, a tough place to play, but the Gamecocks have not looked great.
No.
You have an easy one with New Mexico State. Then you have to go to Auburn, those Tigers down there have not looked great.
No.
And then finally, home against Texas. So, look, if you take care of business as you should for those first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the next 5 games, it comes down to that November 30th rivalry game against Texas. If you win that game,
that team would be probably like 10-1,
yeah,
something like that at that point.
If you beat Texas, I don't think it even matters what you do in the SEC championship, because if you beat Texas, you're in the SEC championship. Even if you lose that, a 2-loss team with its only losses coming from an early season loss to Notre Dame and the SEC championship, you're in the playoffs, I think. So 100%, this Texas A&M team has a very good shot, especially if they play like they did against Missouri.
Yeah, for sure. They're a team that I'm keeping my eye on because I was kind of the belief that, I'm not sure. I think they'll have a good record. I don't think they're going to be a serious threat for the college football playoff. I was especially hesitant on them after the loss at home to Notre Dame. So because I thought Notre Dame, I was like, this Notre Dame team is different. Their secondary is unbelievable, and they are going to make some noise. They're going to be a legitimate contender for the playoff. Now I'm not so sure that's the case, which also has kind of led me to wonder if I was too hard on the Aggies earlier in the season. So I'm like, okay, renewed interest in Texas A&M. But yeah, let's keep going. How about to USC and Minnesota? So this game was really weird. Minnesota is not, in my opinion, really that good of a team. They have lots of question marks, and I think they were just going to they may probably still finish as just kind of a middle of the pack Big Ten team. but they defended their home field in a big way. And I feel like this is a testament less to how well Minnesota played. That being said, did the Golden Gophers play well? Yes, they did, or else they wouldn't have won this game. This is more of a testament to how bad USC looked. I mean, this was yeesh. Miller Moss was, in my personal opinion, terrible. Just hitting exactly 200 yards, 23 for 38, a touchdown, 2 interceptions, a 67.7 QBR. There were so many mistakes, it seemed like, from the Trojans in this game. It made it impossible to win this game. Turnovers are the kiss of death in football. No matter if you're college, high school, NFL, whatever. Turnovers are the kiss of death. You commit too many, you're done. I feel like if you're a really, really good team, you could power past 1 or 2, right? If you commit 3 to 4, you're screwed. You're done. Moss threw 2 interceptions, and Quentin Joyner lost a fumble. So there were a lot of turnovers for USC in this game. And Minnesota, Darius Taylor, for as well as he played, he had 144 yards on 25 carries.
Leading receiver and leading rusher.
That's insane. And 56 receiving yards on 5 receptions. He did lose a fumble. I think that the fumble is just a bit of an asterisk.
Mm-hmm.
Darius Taylor was awesome, and it seemed like all night the USC defense had no idea how to stop him.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a massive factor in what led the Golden Gophers to winning this game. Also a game-sealing interception. Which was a spectacular play, but also a really bad throw from Miller Moss, throwing it in double coverage. Devon Williams and Coy Parrish, I believe I'm saying that right, each picked off Moss, and that was part of the reason why Minnesota was able to come out with this critical win. Quinn thought that rhymed. Quinn thoughts. Win. Quinn. That's crazy. Anyway, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough loss. It's tough right now to really see and decipher how good this USC team is.
Yeah, they've been very all over. They've been all over the map.
Yeah, that's what stands out to me because I think this is the worst loss. This is a worse loss than the Michigan one. Now, the Michigan one was rough because
absolutely, for sure.
Michigan is still unable to throw the ball. Michigan just coming off that loss.
Shout out Jack Tuttle.
Yeah, Tuttle
former
coming
Indiana
in.
quarterback Jack Tuttle.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to see how well this team plays this weekend with Penn State coming.
That's going to be a huge game.
All the way out west to Los Angeles.
Yes.
To take on USC. Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I don't know how good this USC team is. I don't think Minnesota is that good.
They are not. Yeah, I agree. I don't think they're good
you look at Minnesota, they lost to North Carolina early on a game-winning field goal from North Carolina. You had a huge lead against Iowa. Not a huge lead, but you were leading at halftime.
Yes.
And then you get blown out in the second half. And then against Michigan, a tough first half, and Minnesota makes it a game and kind of got the bad side of the coin with a late onside kick call in that game.
Yeah. That's
2 weeks ago.
I think that was a bit of bad luck.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't think Minnesota's horrible, but I don't think USC deserved to be number 11 at this point, and it kind of showed it in that game. It's a tough loss. You were playing on the road, but you still have to win that game. And
especially, considering you had that Michigan loss in a game that you led. Like you were saying, that you led, and I'm going to even go ahead and say that USC probably should have won that game.
Yeah. I think USC.
You still had that Michigan loss, and you were still ranked number 11 in the country. So
this might be a kind of a crazy thing to say this early in the season, but I think USC with that second loss is sort of played themselves out of the playoffs.
Whoa.
Okay. You look ahead. If you beat Penn State, there is a chance, right? There is a good chance, but
that is
still,
true. That is true.
It's very unlikely this USC team, with Oregon and Ohio State being the 2 frontrunners, is going to now, with 2 losses, make the Big Ten championship.
Right.
So I don't know. It's going to be a tough one for USC. It's going to be definitely an uphill battle if you want to make a comeback in the Big Ten play.
Absolutely. I mean, they got Penn State coming up. It is at home, and Penn State, like you mentioned, they're going to have to make the trek all the way out to Los Angeles to play that game. And then week after that, USC has a road date with Maryland, and that is not exactly going to be a walk in the park.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an interesting slate, a very critical slate for USC if they want to even have a remote chance to try and get back into the national conversation.
All right.
Let's keep going.
Before we change gears into the NFL, I want to hear a takeaway you have. What's one takeaway you've had so far in the college football season? I have one too. If you need some time to think about it,
I'm gonna. You're gonna like this one.
Okay.
I'm gonna care a little bit to you here,
Okay.
But it's also just what I think I've written about a little bit in my takeaways series. Ohio State is the best team, top to bottom, in the country. That's my takeaway. The amount of stars on this team is just unfair. I bring this up a lot. I just because that team, you know how big of an Eagles fan I am. This team was very special to me. This Ohio State team reminds me a little bit of the 2022 Eagles. I mean, we both knew how good that team was, right? They were stacked top to bottom. They were the best roster, hands down, in the league basically all year, right? They walked through the playoffs essentially and came 3 points short of winning the Super Bowl. But this Ohio State team, it just they're so stacked at essentially every position, and they have so much talent. They have cohesion. They have good coaching. They have really the whole package. Anything and everything you could ask for, essentially, they have. I mean, Will Howard has played great. He's got all kinds of receiving weapons. Quinshon Judkins, Travion Henderson have showed everyone why they are the scariest 1-2 running back punch in the entire country, hands down. No questions asked. This team and the defense has been just as great as advertised. I see no weaknesses on this team. None. And I think Ohio State and Texas are the two best teams in the country now. I thought Ohio State should have been ranked number 1 after this week.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, you said Ohio State's the best team in the country. What separates them from a very, very talented and similarly veteran team
in Texas?
In Austin, Texas.
Yeah, in Austin, Texas. Yeah. I mean, listen, Ohio State and Texas, I think they're in a league of their own, as we've kind of talked about this a little bit before. But I mean, Ohio State is, I don't know. To me, they look a little bit more. There were admittedly some slow starts, especially in the first few games of the season, as everyone kind of learned a little bit like how to play with each other. You know what I mean? I mean, you probably saw this firsthand, right?
Yeah. And
now I think they're at that level where they can they can beat you in so many different ways. Same as Texas, right? But I've seen more of Ohio State. I saw Texas beat Michigan. That win was super impressive, but it's also the fact that Michigan literally doesn't have an offense. And you could bring up the same point. Oh, Iowa doesn't really have an offense. I would go as far to say I think Iowa's offense, as bad as they are, they're better than Michigan. I think I'd say they're better than Michigan. And Ohio State, and they also beat the brakes off of Michigan State on the road, which is not exactly the easiest place to play, East Lansing. So what I've seen from Ohio State is just a little tad bit more convincing for me personally than what I've seen from Texas. Am I saying that Texas is not a good team? Absolutely not. Texas and Ohio State right now, I would slide Ohio State just very, very. I would have slid Ohio State on top, but the gap is so small. But to me, Ohio State has just been just a little just a little bit more convincing, and I think they've got the best roster top to bottom in the country.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my takeaway.
Regardless, I think whichever team wins this weekend, the primetime showdown between number 2 Ohio State and number 3 Oregon leapfrogs Texas, I think is
I
kind of
agree with
a
that.
guarantee. We'll get more into that game in our next show on Friday.
Yes, we will be recording again on Friday.
But for now, I'm going to give you my take, which is that
what's your take?
a guy in Idaho,
Ooh,
a guy by the name of Ashton, should be your Heisman front runner.
And I agree with this. I definitely agree with this. Now,
because I know
conceded my
I think game 3 into the year, after the game against Portland State, when he put up 11 carries for 127 yards, I was like, Joe, I think this guy should be the Heisman. He's like, I don't know. I like Jalen Milroe.
Yeah.
Then Jalen Milroe went out and beat Georgia, which was a great win.
Unbelievable win.
However,
and he played really well in that game, by the way.
He played good in that game. However, I will say he only played for one half, and we mentioned this earlier with Alabama letting Georgia back into that game. A bad second half. Then you go out there, and if you're Milroe, you come out flat again against Vanderbilt. You only play one half, and you get a tough loss. Compare that to Ginty. I mean, this guy's unbelievable. Like,
has he had a single bad game this year?
No. I'll read out his game log. I'll read out his game log here.
Yeah.
20 carries, 267 yards, and 6 touchdowns. That's how he starts the game out, or starts the year out, which is insane. Now that's against Georgia Southern. You're like, okay, well, he's good against these bad teams.
It's Georgia Southern.
What can you do against a good team? Well, how about this? Second game of the year, he puts his Boise State Broncos in a dogfight with Oregon. They lose that 37-34.
In Eugene, right? By the way,
in Eugene. Look, they lose that 37-34. He put up 25 carries, 192 yards, and 3 touchdowns against the Oregon Ducks.
Woo! Man.
He's not done yet. 11 carries for 127 yards, only plays a half against Portland State. 26 carries for 259 yards in a blowout over Washington State, a member of the Pac-2. And then, finally, again, most recently against Utah State, only plays the first half, 13 carries, 186 yards, and 3 touchdowns. This guy has 95 carries for over 1,000 yards and 16 touchdowns. Joe, we are 5 games into the college football season.
16 touchdowns is... I can't even wrap my brain around that. That's absurd. That is absurd, and I don't think we've ever seen anything like that before. Definitely not us. In the modern era of college football.
No. And look, there have been great seasons from running backs who are playing on, non-Power 5 teams. And what people have been saying lately is they're like, look, it doesn't matter if Ginty's putting up these numbers because you look at a guy like Rashad Penny back in 2017.
Yeah, for San Diego State.
For San Diego State. He had also great performances, didn't have a single bad game. But there's a key difference between that and this. First of all, Ginty showed what he could do against Oregon. He's already shown what he can do against the top.
Yeah, against Power 4,
top 3 team right now.
Yeah.
But I'll also hit you with this. In the past, those San Diego State teams, it didn't matter what they did. They weren't going to make a national championship.
No.
They weren't going to make anything. In the past decade, those teams, except for minus Cincinnati that one year, who was now a Power 5 team, Power 4 team, who made a bowl game or made the playoffs.
Right.
Those teams didn't make the playoffs. This year, with the expanded playoffs, Boise State has not only a good chance, I think they have a great chance to become a playoff team.
Yeah.
So you're going to tell me that the best player on a playoff team who's having the best running back season we have seen probably ever, if he keeps this up, granted. Look, there's a chance he has a few bad games.
6.
It's been 5 games.
Yeah,
it looks like
games.
It's going to be consistent. If he keeps it up, this is a playoff team with a running back who's going to have on pace for over 30 touchdowns, over 2,000 yards. He has got to be the Heisman Trophy winner.
And I mean, based on what these first 5 games of the year have shown us, who are we to believe that this kind of monster production doesn't even do it justice. This kind of production, otherworldly, never before seen production, isn't going to continue. Who are we to believe that?
He has had a 64-yard or longer touchdown in every single game.
That's just ridiculous. That's just ridiculous.
Insane.
That is absurd.
You don't do that. Like, guys will have maybe one 60-plus yard carry a year.
Yeah.
He's had 10. He's had double digits of those, which is just absolutely insane. And I think it also helps Ginty's case is that there isn't a stand standout quarterback on any other team right now that's like leading their team and carrying their team and is undefeated. Maybe Cam Ward is what the closest you have to it. But look, if Jalen Milroe is putting up 400 yards a game, 300 yards a game, and his team was undefeated, if Will Howard was doing that, if Jeremiah Smith was getting 200 yards, but those teams are either have a loss right now, have an early loss like Alabama, or have too many weapons like Ohio State, where you have Egbuka getting 3 touchdowns in the most recent game against Iowa.
You got Jeremiah Smith, you got Cardinal Tate, you got Henderson, Judkins, the list goes on.
Exactly. Whereas Ginty, it's just him. He is the entire offense of Boise State, and it also helps he's playing on that beautiful blue field.
I wonder at this point why or how opponents haven't just stacked the box because they know the run is coming.
That's the worst part. They have.
And he's like, okay, whatever. I'm still gonna destroy you anyway.
It's ridiculous.
We haven't seen anything like this ever. We have not seen anything like this. Certainly not in the modern era of college football. And I mean, listen, I was of the belief that Jalen Milroe was the Heisman frontrunner because JT didn't play for a Power 4 school, and then the committee was gonna at the end of the year was gonna find a way to give it to a guy who went to a Power 4 school. Then the Vanderbilt loss happens.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, all right, Boise State, as long as they keep winning, which should happen.
Toughest games are going to be against UNLV coming up, which
that
honestly
will be a challenge. Fair.
UNLV did just lose to Syracuse, but that also could be a game that is crucial in deciding who gets that guaranteed group of 5.
Syracuse, led by Ohio State legend Kyle McCord. Shout out my man Kyle McCord. But no, I mean, the only thing Boise State's got to do is just keep winning, and they will have a spot in the college football playoff. And if that happens, then assuming things continue to play out the way they have been over the past 5 games of the year to start the season, then I've conceded to you, JT should be the Heisman. He is the Heisman frontrunner, and he should win it if things hold up like this.
And that would make me very happy. I don't know why I'm such a fan. It's just so fun to watch him play, and I think he was deserving of it, and I think he's deserving, first of all, to be in the conversation, which people kind of left him out to start the season, but now people are starting to realize this guy's aura.
He's got aura.
He's got aura. Yeah, he does have aura.
No,
all right, let's switch it up. We talked about college.
I'll leave. Bye.
Joe is walking out of the
I am
room.
leaving now. No, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about some NFL.
Talk some NFL.
We've had a bit of a strange week-ish coming off week 5. It started with a doozy of a game on Thursday Night Football, the Buccaneers and the Falcons, and I did not expect this game to be nearly as entertaining as it ended up being. The Falcons won in overtime, 36-30 off Kirk Cousins, who threw for 509 yards and 4 touchdowns, threw the ball 58 times. Insane numbers.
Franchise record in passing yards.
I'm going to make sure I get this guy's name right because he didn't have a lot of action going in. Kadero Hodge, it was his second catch, ended up totaling 67 receiving yards and 1 touchdown. That 1 touchdown proving to be the game winner in overtime that gave Atlanta the W. So this was a wild game. Both teams improved to 3-2, Atlanta improves to 3-2. Tampa Bay drops to 3-2. After Tampa Bay came into this game after just beating up on my Eagles this past weekend, and we'll get to them in a minute. But this game was wow, and it was perhaps a bit of a precursor to what we would get on Sunday, because we had a pretty good slate on Sunday, didn't we?
We did have a good slate. A lot of intense games going on. A few that stand out to me. That Texans-Bills matchup.
That was a great game.
A great game. Ends on a 59-yard game-winning field goal
Shout
by
out Kaimi Fairbairn.
Yeah, Kaimi Fairbairn. A beautiful kick.
Great name too.
Great name.
Yeah.
Fun to say.
Very fun to say, and a heck of a kick to seal the win for Houston, who improved to 4-1. The Bills dropping to 3-2. Do you remember when the Bills were 3-0?
I do. Remember that.
A million years ago, when dinosaurs roamed the earth. Wait,
do you know Josh Allen's
right?
Josh Allen's completion percentage for this game?
9 for 30.
That's under
wait.
right around
wait, wait,
30%. I think that's
Oh,
wait,
no,
give me a
no,
guess.
no.
I'm gonna give a guess.
Guess,
I'm
and
gonna
then I'll tell
say
you.
that is 31.3%.
It's 30%.
Exactly?
Yeah.
No way.
0.3.
Okay.
That's
That's close.
disgusting. I feel like this is probably I think it's just a blip on the radar for Allen, but I think his lack of a true number one receiver is turning into an issue. I thought that through the first 3 games of the season, I thought that the Bills were going to be fine with that whole wide receiver by committee kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, only Patrick Mahomes can make that work because he won a Super Bowl with it, as we mentioned earlier.
He hasn't lost a game with it this year.
No, he has not lost a game, even after losing his top receiver, Rashee Rice, after dive bombing into his knee.
Yeah.
Like, you guys think I'm kidding, but that's actually what happened. So, very unfortunate set of circumstances right there, but Rice is likely out for the year. And now Mahomes has largely a wide receiver by committee. Apparently, he's the only one who can win championships and win games consistently with it because the Chiefs are 5-0.
Yeah.
And the Bills are now 3-2, and they've lost 2 in a row. So that's something to monitor as well. Can we talk for a second about this Ravens-Bengals game?
That's the other one that I was going to say caught my mind.
This was an insane game. I mean, the Ravens ended up winning 41-38 in overtime, and it looked like it looked for, I think, most of this game like Cincinnati was going to win, right? I mean, when Lamar fumbled that ball, I thought, oh, the Bengals are going to get it back, and they're going to score, and the game's going to end. That's how I thought it was going to end. First off, I'm going to call out Zach Taylor for some absolutely porous clock management and game management.
You say porous?
Porous.
Is that a word?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's a word because I wrote it in...
Doesn't that mean something that has holes?
I don't think so.
Horrid is also a word that we could use.
Oh, maybe it's not a word.
Porous is a word. I think it's something that has holes, which makes sense for his play calling.
Because it had holes in it.
It had a lot of holes.
That's what I'm trying to say.
It had a lot of holes.
It was some horrid game management from Zach Taylor. Things like that are what gets you fired, especially when you're in these circumstances that you're in. The Bengals are, for those who don't know, the Bengals are 1-4 right now. They haven't won a home game. They had a golden opportunity to do so this past weekend and failed hard. Thanks in part to this horrible clock management, this horrible game management from head coach Zach Taylor. I mean, why are you running the ball 3 consecutive times when you have Joe Burrow as your quarterback and you have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, among others, as your receiving weapons? Why are you doing that? Why? Do you not trust your quarterback to not be an idiot? This is bad. I mean, the Bengals, I am rapidly losing faith in them. I was just kind of like thinking, oh, they always get off to slow starts, right? And I feel like that's what we're all thinking when they started off, what was that, like 0-2, 1-3 or something? Even when they lost to the Commanders, right, at home on Monday Night Football. You went to that game.
Yeah.
I was thinking like, oh, this is the Bengals. They always start off slow. They'll pick it up. And as we have learned, this is the NFL. Regardless of how bad a team might be, they're still professionals playing at the highest level one can play at in the sport of football, American football.
Yeah.
They're not just going to roll over and die, okay? And I think the Bengals, I'm going to be honest with you, man. I think the Bengals may be too far gone at this point.
I haven't lost hope yet, and I'll tell you why in a second. But I'll start with this. You cannot lose football games when your quarterback throws 30 for 39, 392 yards, and 5 touchdowns.
How do you do that?
That defense is a glaring issue. They did not get a single stop on the Washington Commanders.
Yeah.
They couldn't stop them to save their lives. And sure, the Commanders' offense has looked really, really good these past few weeks, but you got to get a stop. You let up 24 points in a win, but you let up 24 points to the Panthers. You lose to the Chiefs. You let up 26 in that one. Your offense has actually looked pretty good these last few weeks. The defense needs to do their part if you want to win some games.
Yeah.
Now, here's not why I have not completely lost faith in the Bengals. You look ahead at their schedule. You have the Giants. You have the Browns. You're home against the Eagles, who have struggled.
They've been very up and down.
Then you're home against the Raiders. Realistically, the Bengals have a pretty good shot to win all 4 of those games.
Yeah.
If you win
at the very, very least, you probably win 3 out of 4.
Yeah, if you do win all 4, you're back to over 500. You're 5-4. And then you got some tough games. You have the Ravens, Chargers, some more conference opponents with the Steelers. But regardless, I think the Bengals are not too far gone. But if you lose 2 out of those next 4, it's going to be a tough road back.
The only game I could see them maybe have a chance, the biggest chance of losing is probably,
I'd say the Eagles.
And assuming they're fully healthy Eagles. Yeah. And I'm assuming they seem like they're going to get completely healthy after they had their bye week this past week. And I think it's going to be a really good game in week 8, I believe. Week 8. So that's 2 weeks from this upcoming weekend. That's going to be a good one. But the Bengals, I mean, if you want Zach Taylor if Zach Taylor still wants to keep his job, they need to win at the very, very absolute least 3 out of these next 4 games.
Yeah.
I think.
So
if you lose 2 games, goodbye.
Yeah, it's going to be our tough road back. So that's some of the highlights from week 5. Joe, I think similar. I can't say that word today. Similarly.
Words are hard.
Similarly?
It's okay.
Yeah, close enough. Similarly to, I don't know.
What? Does it not? It just doesn't sound good?
Just like how we did for college football, let's talk about some takeaways you've had so far in the NFL.
Yes.
I can go first on this one.
Go first.
My takeaway is that the NFC North is by far the best division in the NFL. You look at the NFC North, 3 of these 4 teams are probably in the top 10 in terms of best teams in the NFL right now. I'm talking about the Vikings, who are undefeated 5-0, coming off of a win in London over, was it London or? It was London.
It was London, yeah.
Yeah, over Aaron Rodgers.
Across the pond.
In the Jets,
I don't know how good that was.
who just fired head coach Robert Saleh.
Yeah, breaking news if anyone didn't know.
Dearborn, Michigan native Robert Saleh. Anyways, you have the Lions, who are 3-1. You have the Bears, who have looked pretty good at 3-2, and you have the Packers at 3-2, who are, I think, a top 10 team.
Agreed.
Look, this division we thought was going to be pretty solid, but then all of a sudden you lose J.J. McCarthy for the year if you're the Vikings. For the Bears, you're like, there's some questions early on in the season about how good this team's going to be, and a very shaky win against the Titans. And then for the Packers, you lose Jordan Love for a few games because of the week 1 injury against the Eagles.
Lose a hard-fought game in Brazil. Philly.
There were a lot of concerns, but you look at it now, this is the only division with every single team above 500.
Yeah.
And look, I'm a big Lions fan. You know this. Everyone knows this.
Everyone knows that Quinn is a massive Lions
huge fan of the Lions. I am starting to have some concerns that it might not be a cakewalk to win this division.
I mean, how could it be at this point?
Yeah.
With how well each of these teams are playing. I mean, especially I know the Vikings. I think I don't want to spoil my takeaway. The Vikings are doing what they're doing. The Packers, they won't ever go away because they've got playoff experience and they just are, I think, like you said, a top 10 team. The Bears, I think the Bears are starting to figure it out, especially Caleb Williams, especially back there under center. His connection with DJ Moore was just on fire against the Panthers.
Yeah.
Yes and no, it was the Panthers. But I think the Bears and Williams are starting to figure things out. So this division is nuts.
And my concern is this, the Lions have 6 of their last, I think, 10 or 11 games are divisional games.
Ooh.
So that's a tough schedule because those, sure, even if the Lions are the more talented team, those games are always chippy. They're always close. Yeah. And the Lions have had issues with the Bears lately. And look, last year they lost to the Packers on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a tough fight for the Lions. It's going to be a tough fight for any team. I think the Lions are still the best team in the division, even though the Vikings are 5-0.
Yeah.
I'm not sold on the Vikings yet. I think they're a good team. But this is going to be a great division to watch as these divisional games start to roll in. Look, we already had the Vikings-Packers. I think that was the first divisional game we've seen from the NFC North.
Yeah.
That was a stellar game. It was the Vikings were up by 4 touchdowns, and then the Packers came
stormed all the way back.
Fighting back, and then the Vikings came out with it in the end. But, yeah, keep your eyes peeled for the NFC North. That's my takeaway.
My takeaway is I was like maybe somewhere around 60 to 70% certain of this going into this past week, but now I think I might be 100% sure. You mentioned this kind of like just now, and I'm going to kind of take it and turn it on its ear. I 100% believe in the Minnesota Vikings. That's my takeaway. I am sold. I know you are not, but I am sold on the Minnesota Vikings. If the Vikings were not a real contender, I think they lose to the Jets. I think they lose that game. To find a way to win that game when Sam Darnold had his worst game of the year by far. The running attack was largely non-existent. Aaron Jones got injured and left about halfway through the game. Who stepped up? That's right. The defense stepped up. The defense, and led by defensive coordinator Brian Flores, who has proven himself as one of maybe, if not the best defensive coordinator in the NFL right now. Great teams find a way to win games like that, in my opinion. And judging how dominant the Vikings looked over the past 4 games or so, this isn't like last year. So like last year, right? The 2023 Eagles, right? They start off 10-1. They're winning all these games in rather sloppy, unconvincing fashion, but the whole mantra is, great teams. They're a great team because they found a way to win that game, blah, 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 blah. They were not dominant in any of their wins as they started off 10-1, and then the collapse happened. The Vikings, on the other hand, this iteration of Minnesota they have been dominant. They've had dominant wins, so they've proven that they can beat the teams they need to beat in dominant fashion. If this Vikings team was not for real, they would have lost to Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. They would have lost this game. Instead, they win, and that's why I am now 100% sold on the undefeated Vikings.
So you're sold on them. Do you think they're better than the Lions?
No, because the Lions have the postseason experience that is so valuable in the NFL.
So if you had to pick right now who wins the NFC North, who are you picking?
Oh, man.
Putting you on the spot here.
Man, I'm going to say Lions are 3-1 right now, correct? Vikings are 5-0.
Lions already had their bye week.
I'm going to say the Lions win by half a game.
Okay.
Lions win by half a game. I think, let's say Detroit finishes... Actually, let's say this. Both teams finish 13-4. Detroit ends up earning the tiebreaker over Minnesota, so they win the division.
Okay.
Let's put it like that.
Keep your eyes out then for those Lions-Vikings matchups.
Yes,
those could be
I think those are going to be
very crucial down the stretch.
Very crucial matchups, very entertaining matchups. So, Vikings... sold. That's my takeaway.
So that's our football coverage for you. But there are other sports that are not football that are happening right now, which are kind of honestly taking the world by storm because of how competitive a lot of these games have been. We're talking about the MLB playoffs.
Yes.
And
the Major League Baseball playoffs.
Goodness, the divisional series are off to a great start.
I mean, so just taking a look at this here.
Yeah.
All 4 of these series are currently tied at 1.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how could you even dream of a better start than that? But now we got to get into what teams are actually in these races, and this is special to a particular someone.
I'm wearing a certain hat.
Wearing a certain hat today. Mr. Quinn Richards, your Detroit Tigers, after taking out the Houston Astros, the cheaters.
Swept.
Get out the brooms. Get out the brooms. Get out the brooms. The Tigers, after taking down the Astros in wild card, winning both games, they are now locked in a battle with the Cleveland Guardians, the AL Central. I almost said AL North because I have the NFC North on the brain right now. I almost said AL North.
The AL North.
The AL Central, excuse me, because the Twins cannibalized themselves. But no, the Guardians have been really, really solid all year. Plus, it helps when you got literally the best closer in baseball, Emmanuel Clase. Did I say that? Clase. Emmanuel Clase, excuse me.
Probably the best closer season we've seen in a decade.
Yeah. in a considerably long time. I mean, Class A has been he's been unreal. He has been otherworldly kind of good.
Unhittable.
Yeah, literally unhittable.
Until a team from Detroit.
Someone forgot to tell the Tigers that.
Yeah.
Someone clearly forgot to relay that message
Someone
to the
forgot
Tigers.
how gritty this Tigers team is.
And they more than deserve the nickname of them Gritty Tigs, because they are now locked at 1 game apiece with Cleveland, thanks to Kerry Carpenter's monster 3-run shots off Class A.
Coming in as a
game
pinch
2.
hitter, by
Coming
the
in as a
way.
pinch hitter. Was that his first at-bat of the game?
No, second at bat.
Second at-bat. Second at-bat of the game, comes in and just destroys Class A with a 3-run home run to put the Tigers up for good. Blasted into right field.
And what people are, I mean, it kind of gets hidden because of the home run and the ultimate result. But look, the Tigers hit off of Class A the inning before too.
Yeah.
I think it was Wenzel Perez or Andy Ibanez, one of the two. I think it was Perez who hit that like line drive to left field where Quan diving play, a great effort, but I think the ball dropped. There was a lot of controversy. It looked to me like the ball dropped.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it was ruled not a hit, but that would have been at least 1 run, probably 2 for the Tigers. And then you come in the next inning, Clase gets the first 2 outs. It was a 4-out save. Comes in for the first 2 outs, and then it was hit, bomb. And so, like, oh my goodness, just the ability for the Tigers to take a guy who has not blown many saves this season. He has not allowed a single home run when his team is leading.
Mm-hmm.
He allowed 3 home runs all season, now including the last one. His other 2 home runs were when the team was already losing.
This
had not allowed a home run on his slider since 2022. Has about a .6 ERA going into this outing.
You got to realize, I mean, that's sad about 2022. You got to realize how many games that is. I mean,
yeah,
that's almost unfathomable. I can't even wrap my brain.
Well,
around
the stadium, Progressive Field, was absolutely shocked because those fans had not seen that at all this season. They had not seen it really in the past 2 years.
Yeah.
Clase actually getting
hit
the
on,
Tigers shown Clase was mortal, right?
Not just hits. Not just hits, okay? But to get a 3-run momentum changing, essentially game sealing home run hit off a guy who hadn't given up anything even related to that in
so
150, 60-something games. I mean, how could you not be in shock?
And
you
look,
could just stun silence at Progressive Field.
It wasn't just Kerry Carpenter's hit. It was everyone. Look at Jake Rogers, Trey Sweeney. These are guys 8 and 9 in the order.
Yeah.
They were getting off great swings off of Clase, and that's, I mean, 100% credit. I don't know if that's work for the simulated pitching machine. What is allowing the Tigers to have that success? Because no one in the MLB was getting swings like they were getting off of Clase this year.
Yeah, no team was doing that
and
the way
so,
the Tigers did that.
Full credit to this Detroit team. And I think now, we mentioned the series being tied 1-1 for every single divisional series. I think that favors the lower seeded team, the team that had to play away first. It favors them in every single one of these series. I think especially it favors the Detroit Tigers.
Yeah.
Because right now, you look at what Detroit needs to do. Look, if you go home, you got to win at least one of the 2. But if you win both, obviously the series is over. If you can split the pair of games at home, if you're the Tigers, you go into Game 5, there's a good chance Scooble's ready to go again.
Yeah.
You put Scooble back on the mound, it's always going to be a good chance that you win that game if Scooble's on the mound. Scooble, in this last game, 7 innings pitched, allowed just 3 hits. He had 2 kind of jams in his last 2 innings, worked out of him beautifully.
Mm-hmm.
He was unhittable.
Definitely more unhittable than the guy who everyone was praising as unhittable. Yeah. So the Tigers proved that Clase was mortal, and they more than proved that in Game 2. Now the series is tied at 1, and it shifts to the 3-1-3. Right?
Yep, that's correct.
Yes. I was like, I saw that.
No, you got it.
I see the 3-1-3 on they incorporate into some of the Pistons logos.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think that's the area code.
Yeah.
Anyway, the series shifts back to the 3-1-3 for games 3 and 4, correct? Yes. And
Wednesday and Thursday.
Wednesday and Thursday, and a certain someone was browsing tickets while we were in our sports photography class. Don't know if that ends up happening, but an interesting
a good development there.
Yeah, a good development, an interesting opportunity for Mr. Richards over here. But yeah, let's go. Okay, so let's go. We got just a few minutes here. Let's go. Give me your winners of each of these divisional series, and then I'd like to talk about one last small thing before we wrap up.
Yeah. Okay. I'll start. I think the Tigers take this series. What I saw, you need to beat. If you can show you can take down what was looked at as an unhittable bullpen, you got a good shot to win the series.
Yeah.
I think the Tigers are going to win it. You go back home. I don't think there's any chance the Tigers can lose both of those, and because of that, I think if it goes to Game 5, the Tigers win with Skubal probably on the mound. I'm going to take the Phillies over the Mets. I think the Phillies have been more consistent all season. I like the Phillies. I know, Joe, you're a big Phillies guy over there.
I know the Rangers the Rangers have not been good this year, so I'm turning my attention to the Phillies a little bit.
Yeah.
But I am in agreement with you. I think the Tigers beat the Guardians. I don't think the Guardians are that good, especially their hitting core is. I have issues with the consistency of their hitting core. I think the Phillies beat the Mets. Anyway, keep going. Sorry,
no, you're good. I think the Dodgers will take down the Padres. I had the Dodgers in my World Series a few weeks ago on the show. I'm going to stick with that. I think the Dodgers handle business against the Padres when they go to San Diego. I think the Royals and Yankees is an interesting one. I do think that the Yankees win that. It's tough, but and look, the Yankees have had like no postseason success as of late, and that's been the story. Like, not ever. But as of late,
modern era,
yeah.
In the modern era, they've had virtually nothing.
I don't know. I just like the Yankees' offense. I think it's more consistent from what I've seen from the Royals, especially late in the season. How the Royals started to kind of sputter at the end of the year, which almost had the Tigers jump them
in the AL Central.
Yeah. First of all, people were counting out the AL Central as one of the worst divisions. There's 4 American League teams left in the playoffs right now, and 3 of them are from the AL Central. Hey, having the White Sox, I think that's wise because the White
Sox merchants.
No, they were so good. The White Sox were so good that every team just got so much better because the White Sox were so good.
Yeah, the White Sox are great.
They're
team. Great.
They didn't lose over 120 games this year.
They set this MLB single season record for most losses in a season. Yeah. So we are completely kidding, by the way.
So I'll take the Yankees in that one, and that's my picks. Joe, you can finish us out here with what we're going to talk about last.
Yeah, so I want to go. Okay, this is a little bit of a me thing because I've started watching more of this sports than I ever have before. Tonight is I'm looking forward to tonight. Why? Tonight is NHL opening night. And I know what you're thinking. You guys don't ever talk about NHL on the show. You're right. We don't. But I would like to change that a little bit this in the coming months. So I want to go. So opening night tonight, we have Blues Kraken, the St. Louis Blues and the Seattle Kraken starting off 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Then we have the Boston Bruins taking on the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. And then to round out the night, we have the Chicago Blackhawks, led by now sophomore sensation Connor Bedard, taking on the newest member of the NHL, the Utah Hockey Club, which bears a
worst name
striking resemblance to the 2020-2021 Washington football team, if you remember those days.
Yes, I support the Utah Hockey Club.
Shout out the Utah Hockey Club. But the one thing I want to get into, just one question, Quinn, for you before we wrap up. Give me your Stanley Cup champion prediction for the 2024-25 season.
Listen.
Did I put you on the spot a little bit?
No, yeah, you did. It's okay. Admittedly, I also started watching more hockey last year, to be honest, especially late in the season as a certain team was making a late playoff push.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with a certain team into 3-1-3. I'm going to pick
the Detroit
Red Wings. Look, something's brewing in Detroit. I don't know what they started doing, but
maybe
first of all,
the Lions' success in 23 just kickstarted everything.
Yeah, they kickstarted everything. And we'll talk about how Detroit has had a ton of success, except for one certain
basketball team
we don't talk
that
about
plays
them.
at Little Caesars
We
Arena.
don't talk about them. But I do know this. The Red Wings.
Shout out Tim Hardaway Jr.
The Red Wings were a young team, only getting more and more experience. They were just a half game out of making. It was a tiebreaker that kept them out of the playoffs last year. I think they make the playoffs, and I think the power of Detroit. Look, Detroit is a hockey town. That is Hockey Town, USA.
Yeah.
Look,
Are the Red Wings the team that throws the
octopus on the ice?
Yeah. They do that.
They do
I
that.
think that's funny, actually.
So I'm taking Detroit. Give me Detroit, and then I'll pick a team from the Western Conference. Give me the Golden Knights.
Yeah, good pick. Good pick. Let me. This is.
Pick the Utah Hockey Club.
Pass. I don't know. I mean,
that's okay. Tell me if I'm wrong. This is just all of the Arizona Coyote players now on Utah, correct?
yeah. And I don't
It's
even
not
know
like
if the
it's just
Arizona
a
Coyotes were a particularly good team, to be fair.
I don't think they were last season. So it's not like because in NHL especially, what we've seen is that the relocation draft, or no, the expansion draft is what it's called.
Yeah.
Has been really, really good, right? With the Kraken and the Golden Knights both being very competitive in their first few seasons. But
Yeah, for
Utah, that's not the same story.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, this is really interesting.
Not going to go with your Stars.
No, I don't know if I trust them in the postseason anymore because a couple years ago, right? They get all the way to the Western Conference Finals, and then they get the brakes beaten off them by the Golden Knights despite they went down 3-0. They came back, won 2 games, and then lost fairly convincingly in Game 6. Mm-hmm. Then, last season was, I think, the tipping point for me because this was just – they go to the Western Conference Finals again. They face off against the Edmonton Oilers. Now, let's be clear here. The Stars were a much better team than Edmonton. There is no excuse why they shouldn't have lost that series. Guess what happened? The Stars lose to the Oilers in 6. I believe it was 6. You know what? Let me double check that. Let's double check that real quick.
That Edmonton team was really fun last year.
They were super fun to watch. Connor McDavid finally
felt like Trout making the World Series.
Yes, yes. Playoffs 2023. I believe it was 6 games. I believe the Oilers won. I believe they won 2-1 in that deciding Game 6. I mean,
yeah, it was Game 6.
This made me just lose a lot of trust in the Stars.
It made you throw away your fandom.
Not throw away my fandom. I'm still gonna root for them. I'm still gonna watch them as much as I can. But
yeah,
God, it left a really bad taste in my mouth. I'm like, how? They forgot how to play offense. They forgot how to score for like the last 4 games of the series. I think they went up 2-0 and then just forgot how to play hockey for 4 games. It was just I'm not picking them. I'm hesitant about the Oilers because I still don't know if they have enough around Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pick. Man, this is really tricky. I think someone comes out of the East and wins it this season.
Out of Detroit, Michigan.
No, not Detroit. There are other teams better than Detroit. No offense. Let's just see.
You'll see.
Out of the West, I'll take the Golden Knights, like you said.
Yeah.
I'll take the Golden Knights. Out of the East, I think.
How about the Bruins?
I'm thinking about the Bruins. Instead of the Bruins, maybe the Rangers. You know what? I know the whole joke around the Rangers is that they haven't had a whole lot of. They've had a few deep runs, but they haven't. I don't think they've won. I don't believe they've won the Stanley Cup in a while.
They were in the conference finals last year.
They were in the conference finals, losing to Florida. To be fair, I think Florida was probably the best team in hockey for most of the year.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the Bruins had that historic record in the regular season, but in the playoffs, the Panthers really turned it on.
Yeah, the Panthers really turned it on. I think this is going to sound maybe a little bit crazy for all the hardcore crazy hockey fans out there. We're just 2 guys chopping it up, okay? Give me the Rangers over the Golden Knights in the Stanley Cup Finals.
And the city of New York would riot.
Yes, they would probably burn down the place. No, but those are our little off the top NHL predictions, and that's going to be our show for today. This will be up on Spotify and YouTube. You can find it wherever you get your podcasts. As usual, per usual, right?
How about four sports we covered today?
Yeah, me personally, think that's a pretty darn good day.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be our show. This will be up soon. Thank you for watching / listening, and go tune in when it's up. We'll be back soon.